What's the point of having energy if you don't have the instructions to know how to use it? In the previous video about water, I told you that your body is a battery, and I said that if you're tired, it's because you've lost voltage. I also showed you that without those approximately minus 90 millivolts, the cathedral, that is your body, is left in the dark. But today we're going to go one step further, because a cathedral with lights on is still just a building if there's no one inside who knows how to interpret the blueprints. I think this is very easy to understand, and it also lets us glimpse the danger you might face. Many of you have asked me why, even when you have electrolytes, that is, even when you supplement properly with electrolytes and try to rest, you feel like your body just doesn't get it, like the command to heal never reaches its destination. And the answer is as fascinating as it is terrifying for traditional medicine. Your deoxyribonucleic acid is not just a complex chemical code tightly stored in a nucleus. Your DNA is an antenna. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the Russian school, and specifically about a man named Peter Garyaev, who was silenced for proving that we are beings of liquid light, and about how these two metals, zinc and copper, which I have in my hands, are not just minerals, but the keys for your biological software to start working again. If you thought you had already seen everything when it comes to the world of health, then get ready, because today we are going to learn how to speak the fascinating language of light. And I can certainly imagine exactly what you are thinking right now. You are probably saying to yourself, Jose Maria, all of this sounds absolutely great, but just to start with, where on earth am I actually supposed to get a solid bar of pure copper and another one of metallic zinc right at this very moment? Well, look, I got them and bought them at a hardware store. But listen to me carefully. Don't get hung up on the object. A cathedral isn't built just with stones, it's built with the architect's intention. And if you don't have these anodes or these two minerals, that's okay. Because today as well, you're going to understand that the metal is just a catalyst. What really matters most of all is that you fully understand the fundamental physical principle behind it, which is specifically the complex exchange of individual electrons. You can also use the earth beneath your bare feet, walk on the ground. You can use seawater, the seawater we've mentioned before in other videos. Metals are just a shortcut to force that voltage to approach minus 90 millivolts. But now, let us explore the intriguing and real mystery before us. Why do we need that voltage? Well, it's very simple. So that the software can run. Let me tell you a bit more in detail about the man I mentioned at the beginning. He should be in every textbook, but his name has been systematically erased. Peter Garyaev, this Russian scientist, was nominated for the Nobel Prize in 2020, but shortly after that, he died under strange circumstances and Western science completely marginalized him. And yet he had discovered something. It completely changes the rules of the game. He demonstrated what is known as the phantom DNA effect. And you might ask, what is this phantom DNA? Well, yes, that's exactly what it is. In a controlled experiment, they removed a DNA sample from a container. Physically, there was nothing left in that container, just emptiness. And yet, they projected a laser light through that emptiness, and the light organized itself following the exact structure of the helix that had just been removed. Amazing, isn't it? And now you might also ask me, what does this mean for me? Well, it's very simple, you see. It means that your health doesn't depend only on what you eat or your physical genes. It also depends, and greatly so, on the information you leave imprinted in the field. And you'll understand in this video that this is key. Your DNA is a liquid crystal that emits and receives biological lasers, what are called biophotons. If your internal water is disordered and your voltage is low, the signal ultimately arrives with noise. This is, to express this in much simpler terms, like attempting to appreciate the nuances of a grand symphony on an old radio that is not accurately or correctly tuned to the right frequency. Garyaev taught us that DNA can be reprogrammed with frequencies and with words, because it turns out that human language follows the same mathematical structure as the genetic code. Incredible or not? That is to say, the complex structure of DNA is also like a remarkably small and sensitive biological antenna. That's why when we restore the voltage, what we're basically doing is cleaning the antenna, so that the command to heal comes through with total clarity. Let me just make a brief comment here. His experiment was discussed outside of Russia, but it has never been experimentally refuted in Russia. So with that being said, now that you fully comprehend the fact that your DNA is an antenna, the most important question we must ask is, how do we effectively tune ourselves into your optimal health frequency? The Russians didn't just stick to theory. You know, they're very practical. Garyaev and his team developed what they called linguistic wave matrices. They discovered that if you carefully record the specific vibration of a healthy organ or of a biological cell at its absolute peak performance, and then project that frequency onto a sick cell using sound waves or laser light, the sick cell actually remembers its original state. This, to give you an example that will help you understand, is what I call the tuning fork effect. This effect, as you know, is based on the principle of sympathetic resonance or harmonic resonance in physics, and it is applied as a physical principle in biological applications and as a key condition. And here I'll explain it to you in detail. As a physical principle, if an object emits a vibration at a specific frequency, for example a guitar string or a tuning fork, and there is another object nearby that is tuned to that same frequency, like the string of a second guitar, as simple as that, the latter, in this case the second guitar, will begin to vibrate on its own. More than once you've probably seen how guitars are tuned. You may have witnessed it yourself. It's very simple. If you have two guitars and you pluck a string on one, the other, through resonance, starts to vibrate as well. The energy from the first vibration is transferred and induces the same vibration in the second object. Then, in the second place, there is the realm of biological applications, which is exactly what Garyaev's matrices seek to explain. The complex human body and its microscopic cells are fundamentally seen as a highly resonant system, and Garyaev's linguistic wave matrices act precisely as if they were the very first tuning fork for the entire organism. They are, as I was saying, recordings of the frequency of a healthy organ or cell. And when these recordings are projected, this frequency, onto a sick cell through sound or laser light by resonance, the sick cell is induced to remember and adopt its original healthy vibration pattern. That is, your body does the same thing as the two guitars. But here's the trick. For that vibration to effectively penetrate deep into your tissues, the environment needs to be sufficiently and energetically charged. And this brings us to the absolutely essential and primary condition: which is the third fundamental aspect of the process, voltage, so that the transfer of information works. The receiving tissue, that is, the body, your body, must have the necessary conductivity. And if your body's voltage is low, the DNA antenna isn't clean and the resonance doesn't penetrate the tissues. In short, if there's no voltage, there's no conductivity. The music doesn't play. That's why the use of copper and zinc anodes, or even simply walking barefoot on wet sand, is something so powerful for the body. By holding these metals, what you're creating is a small galvanic current inside your body. Galvanic current is a type of electric current with a constant flow that moves in a single direction. Its name comes from the scientist Luigi Galvani, an Italian physician and physicist who lived in the 18th century and is known as the pioneer in the study of bioelectromagnetism. Well, in our specific context today, this phenomenon of galvanic current that I am talking about is basically understood as a fundamental physical principle that is carefully applied to the human body. In order to actively generate a specific voltage, or to put it in much simpler terms, it creates a measurable potential difference across the tissues of the body. This specific setup is what is commonly known as a classic galvanic cell. In short, by holding these metals, we promote the flow of electrons into the body. You could use the image that we are injecting them into the body, although in reality we're not. What we're doing is an exchange of potential. And what do? What's the point of doing it? Well, it's very simple. They help raise the cellular voltage and bring it closer to minus 90 millivolts, because that's the approximate value, though it's not exactly the same in all cells, that allows for deep repair within your body. What I'm suggesting is something like cleaning up the possible noise from your DNA's antenna. And what we're doing by doing this is setting the stage so that the Garyaev matrix, that is, that health information we all have recorded in the field, can be executed without interference. But what happens if the Garyaev matrix is the one that can be executed the most? What happens if you don't have the metals? As I told you before, don't worry. Your voice is also a frequency tool. Your own voice, together with a coherent intention on your part, works like a true biological laser. But of course, don't interpret it as a physical laser. It's a source of frequency, simply that, a source of frequency, but a very important one, coherent. Later on, I'll explain what that means. It can generate the frequency that the antenna DNA can pick up to tune in to the frequency of health and allow the healing command to come through with total clarity. But remember, you can't ask a radio without batteries to tune in to the best station in the world. It won't do it. And here we come back to the same thing, voltage. First, you have to recharge the battery with salts, with sun, and with earth. And from there, you can let the software of life do its work. We have a body, as I've told you many times, that is absolutely wonderful. And what I'm telling you is the missing piece of the puzzle of modern medicine. You see, modern medicine sees you as a kind of sack of chemicals that react with each other. I, however, see you as a cathedral of light and sound. And if they tell you that your illness is genetic and that it has no solution, what they're really saying is that your software is basically broken forever. Garyaev successfully demonstrated that the statement was entirely false. The underlying digital software is there and continues to remain perfectly intact within the phantom DNA. patiently waiting for you to increase the electrical voltage and thoroughly clean the antenna. Regaining your health is not about buying a miracle pill that you take. It's simply about becoming the conductor of your own orchestra again. It's about understanding that a copper anode, a glass of marine plasma, or a barefoot walk at dawn on the beach or in the countryside are not just corny natural remedies. They are true acts of technological sovereignty. Technological. What you're doing is hacking the system to give your body back the control it should never have lost. And now I'm going to give you one last important piece of information so that Peter Garyaev can reprogram your DNA with light. Your cell has to be alive. It's obvious, but I mean electrically alive. And this is where the most tireless worker in your biology comes in. The Sodium-Potassium Pump. Imagine your cell as if it were a castle. For the castle to have energy, it needs a difference in potential. And nature does this in an absolutely masterful way. It keeps sodium outside and potassium inside. And that difference is no coincidence, because what it's doing is generating a constant tension. I want you to pay very close attention. Your body is so deeply aware that this is the true foundation of your entire biological existence that it spends between 20 and 40% of your whole life, every single bit of its available energy, those famous ATP molecules I've already told you about, just to keep these vital cellular sodium-potassium pumps running. Why? It's very simple. If the pump stops, sodium comes in, potassium goes out, the voltage drops to zero, and the DNA antenna goes silent. And this is exactly the point where using copper and zinc anodes begins to make practical and technical sense. By consistently utilizing these specific tools or by providing high-quality essential electrolytes, what you're effectively doing is giving this pump the necessary raw materials and the vital electrical impulse it needs to keep pushing forward continuously. Whenever you physically hold a piece of conductive metal, or when you choose to walk completely barefoot upon the natural earth, you are actively helping your physical body to maintain that essential electrical gradient at a level very close to minus 90 millivolts. Without the functioning pump, there is absolutely no voltage. And without that voltage, there is no working antenna. And without an antenna, there are no healing instructions. If you truly want the Garyaev matrices or any other form of frequency therapy to work effectively, you first have to make absolutely sure that your internal pumps have a consistent and reliable supply. That's why, in the end, I always go back to the basics: salts, minerals, and electrons. Russian technology is the software, but the sodium-potassium pump is the hardware that supports it. And today we have closed the circle. On one side, the terrain with the minerals that feed the pump. On another, the voltage with the energy accumulated by that gradient I was telling you about. And on another, the information, the DNA antenna capturing the melody of health. So what happens if the DNA shifts? What can you do today? If you don't have the metals, seek contact with water and with the earth. Actively search for and seek out coherence frequencies, such as the soothing and organic sounds of the natural world, or specialized experimental or academic research materials. Use the specialized Garyaev matrices, which you can easily locate and download from various online resources. And these last ones, as I mentioned to you before, are sophisticated linguistic wave matrices, and were also originally developed by the renowned scientist Peter Garyaev over many years of research. They are recordings of sound frequencies or laser light that contain the vibration of a healthy organ or of cells at their peak condition. As I was explaining, they work like a biological tuning fork. By systematically projecting and transmitting this specific frequency onto a diseased or malfunctioning cell, or even across the entire body, the ultimate goal is for it to re-establish and remember its original healthy state, and for the underlying DNA to be effectively reprogrammed and restored. This is what I've been referring to as the DNA antenna. But don't make things more complicated than they need to be. The most important thing here is that you maintain a coherent intention. And when I talk about a coherent intention, I'm not talking about magic or empty positive thinking. No, I'm talking about something very concrete. That your mind, your emotions, and your body are all saying the same thing at the same time. Your nervous system, your breathing, your muscle tone, and your internal dialogue, even if you don't realize it, generate frequencies. And if one day you want to heal, but inside you're feeling fear, anxiety, resentment, or any other kind of mental noise, what you're actually doing is sending your body contradictory signals. Think of it like trying to tune a radio while constantly moving the dial. Impossible. A coherent intention means maintaining a stable internal state, calm, clear direction, aligned emotion, all of it in line with what you want to create. And this isn't about repeating nice phrases to yourself, no. It's about maintaining the same emotional and mental tone for several minutes. And when that happens, the body simply falls into order on its own. The vagus nerve is activated, voltage stabilizes, and the biological signal becomes clear. Biology responds more to what you sustain than to what you wish for. Keep that in mind. If your body has the right voltage and your antenna is clear, there is no genetic disease that cannot be heard by the architect of the cathedral. As I have mentioned to you many times before, you are certainly not a helpless victim of your own genetic makeup. No, quite the opposite. You are the master engineer of your very own light. Well then, with this message, I say goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about who brings order to the system when someone or something tries to corrupt it. And as I always say, keep moving forward, always forward. And I'll read your comments.